we bought. It's all in here in the transaction details. Usually by account is simpler to look at. So we've got PayPal, money market. Now this is, oh, that's interesting. It's got the May transactions. I think that's a bug in the software, because you'll see here it says to 4:30, but it's going past 4:30. So I don't know what that's about. We ended up here. So why don't we just switch over to May, because that's going to be what we really want to see anyway. So in May, we had 17,795 and 73 cents at the end of May. At the end of April, we had 18,636 and 26 cents. So we have a difference of 840.53. So we're down 840. And that's the liabilities being realized. So 1750 took that out. So we actually did a little bit better if we take a look at income statement. We actually made $909. So it's kind of confusing, but we moved our liabilities to expenses, and we had a significant income as well because of CocoFest. So that offset it to a positive 909.47.
Okay.
We had 295 in a miscellaneous expense. This was actually shrinkage. I'm not really sure where this money is. I suspect that it's the receipt printing and record keeping that we did at the tables. I suspect we had $295 probably in overage. People we thought paid in cash, but actually probably just paid in PayPal or something. I went over the cash register twice and couldn't find the missing $295. And I'm highly confident that it wasn't just missing. I don't think, having had my eyes on the money bag the whole time and seeing how we were using the register, I don't see how it's possible that we just lost 300. So I think it was just accounting from the receipt system. The register itself wasn't keeping its own receipts, so it's hard to say where the loss came from. It could also just be expenses that we incurred. Everything else is pretty normal. We had CocoFest cost us $4,016.48, and that includes no, actually that doesn't include the $295. So CocoFest cost us about $4,000, but we made a little over $5,000. So a net income of $909. So we have enough money to pay a little bit more for a venue next year, while continuing to spend on things like software and community and marketing and everything. So things like we paid for Meetup for this CocoFest. It didn't seem to return anything, but it was worth a try. We paid for Discord, which seems to be pretty popular. It keeps us kind of in people's minds. I don't know if you guys have used Discord, but over here,
we're not seeing.
Yeah, I'm pulling it over.
Okay.
Over here, we have the Discord channels, and up here is our name, Glenside Color Computer Club, with a little fancy purple thing. It means we're a server booster. It costs us $10, I think, to boost this. Although we could, that's for 2 boosts. We could bring it down to 1. And actually, I have a proposal for that now that I think about it. So that's one of our marketing things. It's all not in this report, but that's kind of in our year-to-year report that'll show up. And
So where
so,
did, sorry,
uh-huh,
for that $295, can you, I guess, can you
yeah.
explain how did you arrive that there was to, is it because you saw
Mhm.
that the money we had in the account afterwards was $295 less than what you thought was there, or?
That's right. So here is what we had in our cash drawer. So we
Okay.
had, let's see, what are we looking at here? We paid for our gift cards that went out.
Mm-hmm.
We paid Tony, Carl Sefcik, and a cash to the bank account. This was all of the cash and checks we received. So all of our expenses totaled 2,800.
Mm-hmm.
Some of this came back as income. So it's repeated up here and down here. Because I think Christian, for example, gave us $50 for the auction. So that shows up as an auction transaction. So it
Got it.
cancels out. So if you go from the top down, I mean, I started the day with $207. We received 30, 556, and so on,
Mm-hmm.
all the way down. Um, these are all the transactions we received, and this is pulled from the CocoFest spreadsheet because the register
Okay.
didn't keep its own receipt book.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we had a total of 3095. We had a deposit of 2,800, which means we're off by 295. There's just
So
$295.
would it have been maybe that, like you said, maybe some people didn't end up paying for their Cocoa Fest item, and we still marked it as being paid or something?
Well,
I
I
mean,
know
could
I
that
got
have
the
been?
auctions right because every
Okay.
auction item was accounted for, and I kept
Oh,
receipts on the auction
oh,
items
okay.
myself.
Oh, okay. So it wouldn't have been that. Okay.
So those, it definitely wasn't that. So my guess is that it was the meals and memberships that were incorrectly coded as cash by by the registration table that maybe
Okay.
wasn't paid, either wasn't paid or wasn't in cash.
Eric, I'm not seeing my name and I know I used a credit card, so I'm clearly something that wasn't
This
showing
is the
up.
cash. This is the cash drawer.
Oh,
So
okay.
so anybody who paid cash or check would show up here.
Got it.
So the 295 is strictly, it was a cash issue.
Got it.
Right.
It was right. I'm sorry, Grant. I was asking too. I wanted to make sure I got that right.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So it's something we
Hmm.
need to work on next year. My proposal to fix this for next year would be have the register keep a receipt. That's my lesson learned.
Okay. Okay.
So that's pretty much it, unless anyone has questions
So can we
about that.
see, so I'm trying to figure out, like, so right now we're at, how much money do we have in the account now? Like total
Yep.
cash and total
So
credit and everything else?
yeah. So as of May, this is our balance sheet. We have 500 in our checking account. We have 17,000 in our savings account. We have no liabilities. We got rid of all those. Our spend for the Cocoa Fest, I haven't replenished it, although I think we probably automatically replenish it. So that finished
Mhm.
the year off at 6,308. So our total assets are 17,795.
Okay. And so what was it, like in the do you have a way to look at like what the
Mhm.
previous months were? Because it
Yep.
seemed to me like we were at 15 and then now we're at 17 or something. I was trying to figure out, because I know you said we made about $909 in at the fest, like all in. So but the 18, right, the 18,000 there, that's a little bit of a misnomer, right? Because it has a bunch of dollars in it that
Right.
we had for dinners and whatnot, but we hadn't
Yep.
actually. So is
Right.
that
Right.
13,000? How should I read? What we
So
had that wasn't
what
encumbered.
yeah, what we actually had in April was 18,636 in cash. But we couldn't just spend that. We had to set aside at least 1,700 for meals. And that is about, as I recall from the receipt from the venue, that is about what we spent on meals and the rooms. So after all of our expenses, we dropped from 18,636 down to 17,795. But
Mhm.
when you figure out the 1750 that we put aside for vendors and meals,
Mhm.
we ended up making money. So it's kind of strange, but you know, we took the money early,
Mhm.
we spent the money late,
Mhm.
and after all said and done, you know, we ended up making about 1,000 at Cocoa
Right.
Fest.
Okay.
Um, yeah,
I'm trying to figure out if there's,
yeah,
I'm trying to figure out if there's a way to, if there's a way to code stuff that comes in, like if somebody's buying a meal or somebody's
Mhm.
buying a table or whatever,
Yep.
you know, those, um,
Well, those were tracked separately.
yeah, but those dollars are, I guess there's a matter. I'm just trying to figure out because it looks to me like the income is going to have this, it's going to have this like upward trajectory as we get closer to a Cocoa Fest, and it's going to drop down because we
Yep.
were holding a bunch of money for Cocoa Fest, and of course
Yep.
the expense came in, and but the point at which it is right after Cocoa Fest is better than it was at the last Cocoa Fest, let's say.
Yeah. So
So
let's take a look at this year-to-year report, which I think clarifies that. So I have
Okay.
this basically a report that goes from December 1st, because our last Cocoa Fest was in November,
Mhm.
to June 4th.
Okay.
So if you see what we have here, we made 56.46 throughout the year, and we
Mhm.
spent 53.45 and 53. So we actually made, compared to last year, 300 on the entire year.
Okay.
So not 1,000, but we ended up a profit of 300. And yeah, so the miscellaneous expense, you know, hurt that. I mean, that's closer to 600 if we knew what that was from. But realistically, I think we made about 300 on this Cocoa Fest. And I think, and all of our expenses. And I think our spending is up from the year before because of the things we're buying, like software, websites, and everything. So
Okay.
I think we're doing, you know, good with this income. And it, you know, it sounded like from the membership too that we wanted to spend down some of our balance on these kind of services rather than save up. Even though that's my inkling is to save up. But, yeah, it's whatever you guys want to do.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? Or I mean, I know I asked some questions. Anybody else have questions on the treasurer's information?
I'll just throw a note out there for our new newsletter, Ben, that we do not publish numbers like this in a newsletter. So if you see them, keep them out of the newsletters.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can say things like, "Oh, we made $300 from last year," or "We made $1,000 at Cocoa Fest." But yeah, telling people how much we have in our bank account or something, probably not a great idea.
Sorry, John Mark.
My question was how many people got their is it membership? I'm not using the right word. The $15 we paid for dues.
I have, for the whole year since December, I have 525 in dues, so that's 35 memberships.
Okay.
But now that does not include, right? That includes how many people bought a membership directly, but that does not
Right.
include the number of people who bought a table, which includes a membership, right?
I'd have to look at how I group those. I think you're right. I think
Okay.
vendors might be separate. And on top of that, people who prepaid won't include anybody who prepaid for multiple years. Yeah, and doing 1025 on vendors won't help because the vendors could have had multiple tables.
Multiple tables, somewhere like first table was 20 and the second table
Yeah,
was 15.
so we'll have to rely on the spreadsheet for that.
So at least 35, John Mark, but I think it's more like, because we had 39 vendors or so, I think.
Yeah, so you might as
it
well
would have
just
been
add those
it was-
together.
yeah, it's probably more like 75 people are, paid members. But Tandy List, I think, will have, if it doesn't already, it should have soon have a list of who is a current member. Like, well, that'll have to be all reconciled prior to the elections in November, or sorry, October. Does that answer your question, John Mark?
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
Just getting back to Bob's question about the newsletter. I'm going to be running this past the officers to review regardless. So if there is anything, I'm coming in kind of fresh because I haven't been involved in this for some time. So I'm going to rely on people looking to check my editing as well as compiling it for at least the first couple issues.
Oh, sure.
Before the newsletter goes out, our president is the last to see it, so he'll
Sure.
okay everything.
There you go. Okay. Any other questions? Otherwise, I'm happy to entertain a motion to accept. Is there a motion to accept the treasurer's report?
I'll make a motion to accept the treasurer's report.
Okay,
I'll
John Mark
second.
makes a motion, and was that Tony or
It was.
Chris? Okay, Tony seconds. Any additional questions? Comments? Okay, if not, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? Okay, that is passed. So there you go. Let me bring up the the only director's report I have for us to go over is kind of a recap of the show. I kind of talked about it quite a bit, so I'm not sure I need to spend a lot of time on it. But Tony, since you're on, is there anything that that you think is worth kind of bringing up as part of the kind of the completion of Cocoa Fest 2022?
No, I have nothing to report on that. I mean, it's pretty well covered in the treasurer's report and in the administration. I mean, I don't know if this is the place for ideas for next year, for corrections of things that could be done or tweaked a little bit better. But the show went off really well, I think. Many kudos to Grant and yourself. The registration table. I do want to make one correction in a statement that was made about tracking receipts on the computer. Rich's program was sending something to a serial file as far as what was happening. However, somebody
Who shall remain nameless?
who will remain nameless, but who we all know got a little bit advanced in teardown and did not make sure that the system was closed out and shut down before an extension cord got pulled. So we lost most of those records. That didn't really happen in previous years, at least while under one version of a point of sale system, because the records were divided up between Saturday and Sunday in those years. And there was an individual daily accounting, if you will. So if we would have lost anything, would have lost just Sunday's records. So, oops, sorry guys. But in spite of that, I think between all of the way that we all the ways that we did record data, we have a pretty fair idea of what happened. And that's just in the administration of the records. It's a little tweak that can be done. I think everything else went off very well. And on Grant's behalf, I thank everybody who was involved in the administration and execution of needed duties and responsibilities.
Okay.
Well, I'd like to add to that a thought that might put a smile on your face, that this was a Chicago Fest. And as you know, all the dailies have always said, vote early and vote often. I think the word should be changed to save early and save often. Back to you.
Yep. Fair enough. Well, I will tell you that, I mean, I'm looking at some of the older records. I know that Tony would do the records and then Bob would check them. And I know that some of the differences between those, like for instance, there was an $80 discrepancy in 2012, and there was there's been some differences, some more than others. Like 2010, there was a difference of about $800 was the difference in 2010. So it's not unheard of that we have differences, $387 in 2009 and so forth. So, but I think Eric and I were chatting about it, and the more we can do to try and reconcile those the differences, that the better, because obviously it's good to have, the better the numbers are, the more comfortable people are with them. So okay, well, I don't know that I have anything else. I know Grant is sending out, he mentioned he was going to send out a survey that's hopefully going to come out this weekend. He was looking for a way to put a survey together. I think initially he was going to use SurveyMonkey, but it appears as though it's quite expensive, and so he was looking for another option. So we'll hope to see that over the weekend for folks. So I'm going to push him to try to get it out this weekend so that folks can respond with what they liked and didn't like. And then let's see. I think he is working still to nail down the dates and whatnot. So more details to. I mean, we have it. We have a tentative date, but we don't have a signed contract yet. So obviously, we don't want to do too much publishing of the date until we have a signed contract. But hopefully, we'll have that by the time the next meeting comes. So those are the only things I know about Cocoa Fest that I can share at this time.
Is there
So
a dollar amount we should vote on to authorize a contract?
For the no, I think he'll come back to us with that, because
For the next meeting?
yeah, I would say the next meeting. I mean, we got time. It didn't seem like it was no problem to get folks to hold the date, so to speak. I don't think they're going to get really antsy about holding the date for a couple months. But I would expect we would need to get a contract signed before, I would say before September. So I'm hopeful that the July or August meeting, he'll come back with, what we've got, how much, because I know it's going to change a little bit. I mean, we've already talked about that a little bit. I know it's going to change a little bit because the venue told us that it was going to change a little bit. So that, as I don't know if everybody know this, but in case you don't, Grant had to kind of rush around right before the Cocoa Fest because the Elk Grove Village Holiday Inn changed ownership a couple weeks prior to the fest, and so he needed to go ahead and sign a new contract, and there was a whole bunch of other stuff that kind of had to be done at last minute, and so they were still trying to kind of sort out contracts when we were there, so they haven't really had a lot of time to go through the venue itself. And of course, we're still talking to them about the costs and stuff like that. So I don't anticipate it'll be an issue, but I do want to get it. I want to get it finished up by September at the latest. Okay. I'm not aware of there being any old business. I know there was some stuff that we're doing behind the scenes from from the board's perspective, but that's not really general business meeting stuff. But I do have something for new business. So does anybody else have any items for that we have yet on the old business? I think from last month that people don't feel like we got taken care of. Okay. If not, I'm gonna switch to new business, and I was going to introduce Grant. I know he's already kind of introduced himself, but so as many of you know, we had a departure in the newsletter editorship late last year, and so we've been kind of, I wouldn't say limping along, but we've been a little bit delayed in getting the newsletters out here recently. I know Bob took on kind of a temporary role to put a newsletter together for right before Cocoa Fest, and we are still a little bit behind, but Grant was at Cocoa Fest, and I know he talked to Steve Strobridge, who was our previous newsletter editor, and he expressed some interest in working on the newsletter. So Grant, if you've got anything you want to say and introduce yourself and let us know who you are and whatnot, we'd love to hear more about you.
Yeah, some of you heard was when we were in the pre-meeting. Can you all hear me? All right.
All's
Good.
well.
Great. I have been away from the cocoa for 30 years or so. I liquidated my stuff to it was like Rick's Trader, I think, at the time, and I'm not sure. I can't remember even where he was located. I found some old letters where I was like looking to sell and acquire stuff at the time. But I'm back. I heard about the Cocoa Fest through the Cocoa Talk Live podcast and coming to the show. I have to say your not having an entry was one of the factors that just made me decide to go. And then when I got there, I'll be a member. It's almost like you just got me in the door. I'm willing. There's no harm in making the payment to become a member. So I think in that case, it actually encouraged me to come, as well as my wife, who said, go for it, have some fun. So I have a background in graphics and IT. I work for a label printing company right now, doing anything they ask me to do. And
what can you share? What company?
It's called Adhesive Label.
Okay.
We're kind of regional, but we do things all across the country. A lot of grocery labels and commercial food and product stuff. So, and we do some business to business stuff. During COVID, we were considered an essential business because we do a lot of tracking labels for warehousing, where it's unique barcodes. So you've got 1 million unique numbers you've got to generate, and then they put them on pallets. So
maybe we'll see customized labels for the Cocoa Fest auction items next year. Maybe we can swing that.
I think those I would be doing at home.
Oh, okay. Bummer.
But,
okay.
On a separate note, I was wanting to find a place to kind of contribute to the community. And my background has, I've done basic programming. I've done since the Cocoa, some PHP with web development. And then when I was in school, it was essentially some of the CS courses. Professionally, the only thing that I've really done is Python, where I use it for my own needs. It's not a development position, but it saves me tons of time every week. So
cool.
So I kind of bridge between creative and technical. I have no hardware experience. That overwhelmed me with all the people who are soldering and dealing with their oscilloscopes and whatever for the projects they're putting together. But I'm looking forward to contributing, and I'm happy to do so. I also had mentioned when I was at the show, and I don't know if this contributes, you were wanting to set aside some funds, I think, for audiovisual equipment. And I had mentioned to Eric, and I can't remember if it was who else I was talking with, but I have a video projector that was my father's. He used for his stamp collecting when he did presentations. I don't know if it's going to be perfectly suitable for what you want, but I can put the specs in and send it to you. And ultimately, I'll either bring it or we could ship that one.
Where are
if-
you located at? If
I'm
you
in
don't mind sharing. Okay, okay.
So,
Well, I think there's always I always think it's better to bring, especially I mean, unless the projectors are truly boat anchors, because like at the November fest, we brought in a projector that we had in the club's stash for many years. I don't remember, Eric, I think, had it at his house, and it was, I mean, it was an
40
all metal
pounds.
case, and it weighed a ton, and it only did like RGB. It didn't even, I mean, you couldn't even plug it into. I think it did composite, but it was, we put it on the auction, and we sold it to somebody so they can enjoy it. But the newer projectors that are, lightweight, relatively lightweight and whatnot, I'm thinking, it's never a problem to have a few too many of those, because you can always
Right.
plug them into a Coco and point them at a wall or whatever. But we are, as far as AV is concerned, I will tell you that so this year, it was kind of a last minute scramble because Steve Strobridge, who also does AV stuff, wasn't planning on coming and then decided to come. And I was planning on coming to do the AV stuff, and I wasn't able to make it. And I know Randy Weaver was there, but he was just kind of getting up to speed on it when we got there. And so we kind of did a low, kind of low tech, not so high tech of a solution for the AV. And I think that one of the comments that came back on the Coco Fest recordings was that the audio quality was not the best. That people would have, I mean, it was okay enough to listen to the videos, but that people would have appreciated it being better. So I did talk to Steve after that, and he said that he had some ideas on stuff that we could potentially do that was low impact. I think kind of going to Bob's perspective of, it needs to be very easy to do, because you don't want, nobody's getting paid to sit behind a control center to twiddle buttons and, everything all day. So what we thought we would do is, there's another show in Chicago in the fall where a lot of Coco folks come. I know John Mark, and I think Brian, I know Eric comes, and myself, and Tony, I think, was there last year as well, called VCF Midwest, Vintage Computer Festival Midwest. And so we typically have there's a Tandy contingent that comes to the show. And so one of the ideas is to get some of the AV equipment kind of that we want to use, and set up a way to do some maybe presentations from the show and see how that goes, and see what kind of stuff works and what doesn't. So I don't know if you're up for another show this year, but if you are interested in being in Chicago in the early September timeframe, we'll probably all be congregating at VCF Midwest to check out what we want to do for the next show.
my 12-year-old son had wanted to come to the show, and I didn't know how excited he'd be. And I said, well, if we go in September, I'll let you go. Otherwise, certainly to the next show. Because he saw some photos I was showing him, and he said, see, there are kids there. He's like looking in all the photos and noticing. So
It's true.
yeah.
Well,
Great.
cool.
I guess one other thing that I'd like to know from each of you who is here, for those who are going to help at least contribute to the newsletter, how do you, I know if we have a shared space, how will I reach out and contact each of you? Bob, I've got your email. Do I have access to look at the Tandy list to get the people's addresses, or how should I go about that?
I'll get you the email addresses for everybody that, like you'll need secretary's report from Brian, you'll need treasurer's report from Eric, you'll need it sounds like I already have written something for the president's Platon, but I don't remember that, but hey, yay, I'm ahead of the game. But you've got my email address. So, and then Grant's email is cocofest at Glenside CCC. A lot of them are just, mine's president, and John Marks is vice dash president, and treasurer and secretary. So they're pretty easy, but I'll send them to you so you have them.
Great.
And then Salvador and Tim Linder are the other two people that we've talked about earlier. They're not kind of official, they don't have an official Glenside address, so I'll send you their
Sure.
email addresses so you can reach out to them. And then the other one is, you're on Facebook, right?
I did join. As a matter of fact, you were the reason why I joined Facebook again after about 4 years off. So
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I don't, I mean, I'll steer clear of the pros and cons of Facebook per se, but we do have a bunch of people who hang out in the Glenside Facebook group. And so what you might want to do is, you should be able to, I think you joined, and so you should be able to post there. And so I would encourage you to post a request there, like, content that people might want to have in the next show or whatnot, or next newsletter. But Salvador is he does a really good job of kind of curating news from the various locations. And so once you can get a hold of him, that'll be a good help.
great. That
So,
helps.
Remind me if I forget to send you an email though, because I got like a bunch of stuff going on. So I sometimes forget if I mention it here. So just keep me honest on that.
All right.
So anyway, I know Grant and I did talk, and of course Grant's got to decide how he wants to set things up. But we typically, by this time of the year, so according to our bylaws, we are supposed to have, actually we're not supposed to, we are required to have 4 newsletters come out every year. Some years we don't get there, but that's our goal.
Yep.
So by this time, we probably should have gotten the spring one out, and we haven't. The winter 2021 one came out like in April, and so I think there's an appropriate to putting the spring 2022 newsletter out relatively soon. And since we just had Cocoa Fest, I know I mentioned to Grant that it might be nice to have one that's kind of focused on Cocoa Fest and what people thought about it and how it went, and then work on a larger or kind of more general purpose newsletter for the summer one. But I await Grant's kind of thoughts and perspectives as he gets acclimated to the role on what's next.
Great. Thank you.
Cool. No problem.
Jim,
Well, thanks.
Jim,
Yeah.
Jim, reminding you that the flavor of this next newsletter ought to be a report on the past fest.
Right.
We are going to need pictures. So we want to get photographs of the fest to Grant for that newsletter.
Yep.
So here's 7 guys right now in front of us that might be able to provide those. Back to you.
Yeah. By the way, I watched a lot of the postings of photos that came in on, I think it was the Facebook page, and I saved a ton of them, just my own curiosity. And I was trying to identify everybody who I'd met or who I hadn't. So I have many, but it would be great if people wanted to contribute. Maybe once I get this email list, I'll send out a quick notice that, hey, I'm getting started, and ask for that stuff.
Cool.
So
it's always cool to get pictures of who was there and get their names underneath those pictures.
Yeah. That's why I was identifying as many people, and I reached out to a couple people to say, hey, who's this person? Who's this one? So I know a lot of you guys have been together for quite a while, so you might know one another, but for anyone new or who came to the fest for the first time, it was
there are a lot of new faces out there.
Yeah. So, and if you just a tiny little aside, the November 1990 issue of Rainbow, I had a Tetris style game published, which I was pretty proud of at the time. So I look back at it, and I've tried it on hardware for the first time just like 2 weeks ago. It lives up for what it was at the time, and I was in high school, so I'm happy with it.
I got a question for you, Grant.
Yeah.
Do you own a Coco setup?
I have a Coco 3. I got it on an auction for $200 just a couple weeks ago.
Do you use VCC?
I'm on a Mac, so I've been using OVCC.
Oh.
And I was using XRoar before that.
Wow. So you are a Mac owner.
Right.
That's for those who don't know, that's the computer for the functionally illiterate.
Well, if you actually know the BSD Unix underneath it, it's pretty amazing. So
I'm not downing it.
I know.
Think about it. That's what a computer was put out there for. People who wanted to get output, not people who wanted to learn computers.
Yeah.
It did its job.
Well,
Yeah.
OVCC and VCC should be pretty close to the same functionality. So I would say, Bob, if you have, things you want to share with Grant that you know how to use from VCC's perspective, he should be able to replicate that same thing from OVCC.
I guess I got to tell Grant that I and a couple others. Oh, they're all here. I saw Chris Hawks, and you see John Mark Mobley and myself. And in 2010, I came up with something called Logic Coco or Logic Call, and it's a VCC program that is like an operating system for a Coco. Matter of fact, you can put it on a real Coco with hard drives, and I think you'll love your Coco even more.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll have to see what that is. I hadn't heard of it recently, so.
Okay, you can find out what it looks like by going to our website and look for Logic Call, and
Sure.
you can go through about 10 pages and see what screens you get and what helps you get. Back to the president.
Okay, well, obviously, Grant will await next steps from you on how you want to get stuff to you, so you can start putting a newsletter together. Appreciate you helping. I know we don't often say it, but all of the positions are volunteer positions, so we really do appreciate everybody who takes the time to help put this stuff together, and so thank you. The other item that I have, I don't want to bring it up for a vote tonight, but I know Bob, you'd mentioned earlier during our kind of social hour and whatnot, but Grant Leedy, who's unable to come tonight, had mentioned that he now has a conflict for Thursday nights. I don't think it's a huge issue in the short term because he's going to be doing more background planning, but I know he'd like to join. He'd asked about potentially other dates during the month for the meeting. And so I told him I would bring it up. I know that, and I indicated to Bob that we had originally had this meeting long ago, or at least before I remember. It had been held on the second Thursday of the month, and now it's held on the third Thursday of the month. And I didn't know if there was other people who were interested in having it on a different day, or if the third Thursday of the month was picked because it was a really good day for a whole bunch of people and continues to be a good day for everybody. So basically just wanted to open up for comments, and so I could share those back with Grant.
Comment.
Yeah, Tony. And Rich, I see your hand, so you're next.
The one of the officers, or maybe a couple of them, when we were meeting together, I believe, was not able to make the second Thursday of the month
Mm-hmm.
because he was in a responsible position, I think, in his church, and they held their officers meeting or responsible positions meeting on the second Thursday. So I believe, if I remember correctly, at that time, we asked the general populace at the time if there would be a problem moving it to the third Thursday. And nobody had a problem. And that's the history of the move, I believe. Someone can correct me if they remember. And if I'm wrong, I will just nod my head and slink back into the shadows. But That's the only reason why we moved. It became an inconvenience for one of the officers of the club at the time.
Okay. Rich?
Well, I agree with Tony, and I'm watching Brian Gores because I think it was he who had the conflict, but I don't remember for sure.
Brian, is that true?
Brian?
Oh, yeah, you're on
muted.
mute.
There we
There you
go.
are.
Yeah, I think I did have a conflict for that night. I thought we changed it to Wednesday though,
No, just change it to Thursday.
to a Thursday.
Yeah,
Okay,
we just
whatever.
went from 2 to 3.
Well, Wednesday, Thursday is still some adjustments for me either way, but I'll work with it.
Well, that's
Yep.
okay. I don't know that, I mean, I don't know that it's necessary for us to focus on moving it. I primarily, I think Grant was just like, hey, if there's an opportunity to move it to another day, then that would be awesome. But he understands that there's a lot of people, and so moving it just for one person can be, problematic.
The
Hmm?
date change most important, it's in the Constitution, so we got to keep the Constitution up to date for those who read it, so they don't get confused. And finally, we post it every time a newsletter comes out. Back
Correct.
to you.
Yep. No, I agree. If we were gonna change it, it would, it need to be more of a formal process. But I guess the question I have, Brian, is, you're still an officer of the group, and so it sounds like we moved it from the second Thursday to tonight to accommodate your schedule. So are you saying that this date is still a challenge for you, the third Thursday of the month?
No, Wednesdays.
Oh, yeah, Wednesdays. Yeah, I could
There's
definitely
stuff
see
that comes up on a second Thursday, but I can work around those.
No, that's okay. It
Oh.
sounds like it's still a concern of yours if it was on the second Thursday. So having it on the third Thursday, I think the only other option would be, Fridays are out, weekends are out, Wednesday is out. So really your only opportunities is to have it on a Monday, a
The fifth
Tuesday, or a
Thursday?
Thursday. Huh?
The fifth
Well, yeah,
Thursday?
you get it. Yeah, on a fifth Thursday, you get that every,
every 2 or 3
4
months. Yeah.
That's right. So Mondays typically are bad because people are just starting a week, and that's kind of challenging. So Tuesdays and Thursdays of a given week, and it sounds like the second Thursday of the month is still an issue. So I just wanted to get some clarity around it so I could report back to Grant on what options there were. Any other thoughts or any other concerns over it being when it is, or a presumption that we need to move it or something like that?
Yes, I always like Thursday because it's the day the trash goes out.
Okay. Well, that's fine. Eric doesn't have a comment. John Mark, I guess Grant, you probably don't care one way or the other, but Chris or John Mark, you guys have any
I don't.
thoughts?
I don't have a preference.
Okay. That's fine. Chris, anything? He's on mute. You're on mute, Chris.
No preference.
Okay. Well, that was all I was going to let Grant know, and if he wants to move it, I think he'll be at the next meeting, so he can put a motion forward, he can make it more of a formal request if he wants to, but I'll let him know. Any other new business? Any other new items that we need to discuss?
Yeah, I have one.
Okay.
I'd like to buy a computer to bring to Cocoa Fest and to VCF Midwest for people to register on Tandy List or whatever. I thought about building one that's Cocoa themed, and we could do it with a Raspberry Pi, a monitor, and one of John Strong's Cocoa Pi models, which I think would look really cool. I haven't exactly quoted a price on all that stuff, but I mean, I doubt it would be more than $500. So I guess I'd like to propose that we build a computer for less than $500 to bring to Cocoa Fest and VCF Midwest and whatever other shows.
Okay.
And you've
That
got to-
wasn't clear to me. Are you looking for an actual Coco 3?
No.
To
No, just a real computer to access our website, Tandy List, or any other service that we want to access to set on our tables at Cocoa Fest or BCF Midwest. So people can sign up for Tandy List, or they can, register for Cocoa Fest
Okay.
at BCF Midwest. Any
Okay, thanks
computing
for
type
clearing
tasks.
that up.
And a dedicated computer for that function.
Just for that, yeah, because I think we haven't had anybody come offer us, a laptop to just use throughout the entire show. If someone brings a laptop, it's for their own use. So I would like to just have a dedicated machine. We know it's going to work. We know it's set up to do what it's supposed to do. And the idea is to get people to sign up for Tandy List with it. We didn't even
So-
have a registration computer at this Cocoa Fest.
So, I mean, you're talking about a Raspberry Pi kind of based machine. I mean, obviously
Sure.
those are relatively inexpensive. So is there, I mean, $500 is, I don't know that I have an issue with $500 per se, but seems like a lot for something that's a Raspberry Pi
Well,
kind of centered machine.
as I recall, the case, John Strong's case is 50 or 60 bucks. I could be wrong. The Pi itself is going to be what, 35, 45 bucks.
Mhm,
Power supplies, monitors, mouse, keyboard.
mhm.
I don't think it'd be a 500, but I'd hate
He's
to
going to be
not have
500,
it.
or he's going to be battery operated.
No, I would plug it into the wall.
Yeah, if it's gonna be at the fest, I think maybe, Jim, what you're also saying is 500 sounds high, but if it's just no higher than 500, I think you can, if you parted those out, probably can be less than that. What kind of a screen were you thinking of? Like just a little portable one, or?
Yeah, we could buy like a little LCD. I've seen actually retro looking LCDs, and I don't have a price on anything like that. Modern LCDs, but they have a nice little retro look. I was going to look at one of those, but just a cheap screen.
So
I-
this is a Raspberry Pi emulating a PC computer. Is that what you're saying?
No, I would put Ubuntu or Debian on it, Linux, and then I think they call it Raspbian actually.
I see.
And it would just run Linux and Firefox or Chromium or whatever.
Not that it changes the comment on the table or the potential proposal, but I know John Strong is always looking for cool things to do that require that are 3D printed, because he's a he's a big 3D printing person, and so there is a possibility if we're so inclined, to take an LCD monitor that was relatively lightweight and take it out of its case. John may be up to building some sort of a combined unit, right? That has the Cocoa look. You still use the Raspberry Pi in it, obviously, but the Cocoa case style, but some type of a built-in LCD that's kind of like got the same Cocoa. I'm trying to think, on the case, that.
You should make the face of the screen, the framing, look like a CM8 is what I'd say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That you get it, right? There's something
Yeah.
like that kind of, because what you're really saying is, instead of just plopping a generic PC on the table, it would be better to have something that's really themed
Yeah.
around the Cocoa. And so
Right.
I think an LCD monitor or a kind of turn it into a kind of a laptop type of thing, that has a attached monitor that has a CM8 kind of look and feel, that would be kind of cool. I assume it would spawn a little bit of conversation, like, wow, that looks like a weird LCD screen. Well, yeah, because it was modeled off of a CM8, which was the
Mhm.
standard monitor at the time. So that's fine. I just wanted to check on what the money goes, but you're right, Grant. It sounds like it's no more than $500 investment.
I
Yeah,
also
I
think that
couldn't
it kind of
imagine.
works towards, oh, I'm sorry to interrupt, kind of works towards a marketing kind of, it encourages people to sign up. It gets people's names in your hands so that you can reach out to them. And
Fair enough. I'm sorry. I think Eric, you had something else.
I don't remember, but
Okay. Well, I guess there's a proposal on the table. So is that a motion that's looking for a second?
Yep.
Okay, so there's a motion on the table for an up to $500 investment to put together a Raspberry Pi based themed computer that looks like a Coco to have at these shows for registration purposes. And is there a second for that?
I'll second.
Okay, Brian Goers, second.
I'm
So
wondering if maybe we should table this until Eric can have a discussion with John Strong to see if you can get him on board. It'd be a much stronger proposal if we had two guys who are in agreement on the realization of it.
well, I guess I didn't really want this to become like a big project. I just wanted a simple computer that we put together. So I don't know how much I like the idea of building something custom. I would like to just put it together and have it done and put it in storage. But it's up to you guys, I guess, whatever you all want to do.
Well, you'd be the leadership there. You're the champion, so you're the lead man on there. But yeah, your inputs sound good, reasonable, and sounds like a nice thing to have at the next fest. Back to the press.
any other comments or concerns on the motion on the floor?
I'll back up Dick Bear there on tabling it. Now that we've heard it, it needs more talking at the next meeting, and gives time for Eric to look around and get his eye on something, get more focused. So to table it now would be appropriate.
John Mark, Brian, Grant, Tony, Chris, anything?
Honestly, I personally think we could go forward with it and then the details can be worked out. But I'm okay with either. I think a little more time it's not, Eric, you don't feel like you have to be
No, this
rushed
would
on
need to
it.
be done by September.
Right. So I don't see any reason that a delay is an issue, but I don't think I don't see a strong purpose to hold off on it either. On the approval part of it.
Okay.
Comment.
Yeah.
I'm in favor of the concept. I feel like I really let us down for the registration table. I'm sitting here looking at numerous laptops, and I've said this before, but after the November Fest, I think it was, I pulled things apart, or maybe it was the year before that, and separated the computers from the power supplies for convenient storage because we were trying to get stuff off the floor to have new flooring put down. And somehow I managed to separate the container that had all the power supplies from the laptops. And I've not been able to find the box that I put them in. I know they're in the house, and I don't think we should go ahead with any purchases, at least for a month. We should get the numbers for one concept, but I also have the opportunity to donate a laptop or more once I find the power supplies for this dedicated project. So go ahead and pull numbers together, but I don't think we should vote on spending or buying anything yet. Well, now that's unique for an inside outside dog. of for this project. I still want
Okay.
to be able to donate some of these, donate one or more of these to the club for that purpose.
Well, there's definitely a need for other laptops. I just think this is kind of a neat thing to put on our BCF Midwest table and on our Cocoa Fest registration table. It looks like a Cocoa. You put your name in it and you become a member of the club. I was thinking of just something simple.
Get hard numbers together, Eric. Just get hard numbers and let's vote on what we're going to do. Put it in the new business or the old business. Put it in the next business meeting for excuse me, a final decision.
Sure.
I'm behind the concept.
Okay, well, I think it's up to you, Eric, on whether you're willing to table it or you want to move it forward for a vote. So I guess I'll leave it up to you on that.
There's no rush. So I'm happy to table it. I'll give you guys a price and a place to buy this stuff from, and we can just talk about it next month.
Okay. Okay. Then I will put it, I'm going to do this right now while I've still got, I'll go ahead and create the next meeting's agenda, and I will go ahead and put it on there so that we don't forget about it. Okay. Okay, so that item, we're tabling it until July. So any other items of new business? Okay. Anyone? I'm sorry.
I have one more item.
Yeah.
New business. Just to let those people here know that not only have we reached out to the new fest venue that you know about, but I also made a contact at the Elgin Holiday Inn, and I was not encouraged with the pricing. It wasn't the same pricing that we've got at the past fest venue, but let me tell you, it was not down in the range of $3,000 to $5,000 either.
Okay.
I can fill you in more on that detail later, Jim.
Okay.
But I was not encouraged.
Okay, that's fine. Got it. Any other items?
Just so the other officers know, I put in the drive for the Google Drive under
Yeah.
my drive, Cocoa Fest 2022 contracts, 2 folders with information on Holiday Inn Madison and a Tinley Park. It says even hotel, but it's a Holiday Inn type ownership.
Okay.
All the information's in there if you want to look at those. I don't know how you compare them for what's current. One of them, if you wanted to put in a power strip, you had to have them do it with their electricians, whatever that means.
Okay.
So there's other information there if you want to look at it.
Okay. Sounds good. Anything else?
I've got nothing else.
Okay. Well, if not, then I will, I'll entertain a motion to close out the June meeting.
I second.
I can't motion. I have to wait for somebody to move. So are you
I'll move.
making the motion? Oh, so Eric's moving and Brian is seconding. Is that correct, Brian?
Yes.
Okay. So all in favor?
All in
Aye.
favor, Stan?
Aye.
Oh, no.
Any opposed?
Will I start it tonight?
Okay. Well, in that case, then thanks all for joining the meeting. I'll gonna shut the meeting down now, but folks can stay on. We've got evidently unlimited time now for this meeting, so you can stay on as long as you want. We will probably have a new link because evidently we need to fix up the link. It has to be opened under a specific ID, and so we'll have to figure that out for the next month. So look for a slightly changed link, but we'll try to update it everywhere and send it out beforehand so people have the right link. With that, I will talk to everybody later.
All right, good night.
Hey, all.
Yeah.
See you.
I've got a violin to play here. The last storm we had blow through here with 75 to 84 mile an hour winds took down a couple of tree limbs that one of them fell on my power. So we were under